Hello out there in internet land. This is the P&J F1 chat, episode 17 from the Sochi Autodromo from Russia in Sochi. I am your host, Phil Lamington, and beside me is, because I've got to find the thing here because I'm useless, joining me as always, a man who likes to take a gamble in the wet, my co-host JB. JB, how are you, my friend?
On a personal level, I'm good. And that was a fantastic intro. Thank you.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to find where you wrote it. JB wrote his own intro this week.
2 races in a row. The intro's written itself. I couldn't resist.
And you might be seeing right about now a photo being put up. Johnny's grief after this race is sponsored by Great Northern. We are not officially sponsored by Great Northern, but Johnny officially endorses Great Northern. So, the Russian F1. Normally, in previous years, everyone's labelled it as a boring race. This year's one was thrilling from go to woe.
It really was. It really was. Depending on which side of the fence you were sitting, I guess.
Well, I mean,
some of us are feeling a little bit better about it than others.
Well, I mean, being a Ferrari supporter, like I was happy at the start. Like Carlos Sainz is in the lead, and you know LeChucker's got the new engine, but he's starting way back in the happy sticks.
Yep. Hey, McLaren and Ferrari locked out the front row. It was like,
well, it's funny you should mention that because at the end of qualifying, you had Lando Norris in the McLaren on pole.
yep.
Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari second, and George Russell in the Williams on third.
Exactly.
And then Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes.
I was about to say there wasn't a Red Bull or Mercedes in sight, but then Lewis was like right there. But
it was so good to see the old
it
guard
was
up the
it
front.
was really was the old guard. It was like the big guns from the 90s were back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the race started.
And it was from go to woe brilliant.
So, at the end of the race, after 53 laps, your winner was Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes.
His 100th win in Formula One,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal
Yeah.
when you think about it.
Oh, it is. And he took the time to give his generic speech of, you know, thanking all the boys back at the factory and the amazing fans.
That's it.
Max Verstappen, who started dead last, came second in the Red Bull. Carlos Sainz came third in the Ferrari. Daniel Ricciardo came fourth in the McLaren. Valtteri Bottas in the other Mercedes came fifth, having started... He started ahead of Max at the back of the grid, and they changed his engine out for tactical reasons.
To stay ahead of Max.
Yeah.
And it ultimately failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Bottas now, I believe Bottas now is not playing the team game. He's just sitting there going, well, I'm leaving. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, he doesn't give two fucks.
Sixth was Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. Seventh was Lando Norris for McLaren. Just the most heartbreaking day for him.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. In eighth was Kimi Räikkönen, returning after missing the last two Grand Prix with COVID. And he put in a solid drive.
He did. I think he liked the changeable conditions at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sergio Perez in ninth in the Red Bull.
That's not the sort of day they would have wanted for him.
No.
Yeah. He, I didn't realise how much of a nowhere day he had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10th was George Russell in the Williams.
Still getting points. Back in the points.
Yeah.
Let him go.
11th was Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. 12th was Sebastian Vettel in the other Aston Martin. 13th was Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. 14th was Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. 15th was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. He had a miserable weekend.
He really did.
Like,
New engine and everything, and he got nowhere.
yeah. Well, I mean, he was up the front around the halfway mark, and then he pitted, and it just went backwards. Antonio Giovinazzi was 16th in the Alfa Romeo. Yuki Tsunoda was 17th in the Alfa Tauri. Nikita Mazepin was 18th in the Haas. Nicholas Latifi was 19th in the Williams, but I do believe he retired.
Yeah, I don't think he finished the race.
And Mick Schumacher retired the Haas.
Yeah, something
but he came
happened.
dead last.
Yep. All right. This is the order of events because it was a thrilling race from start to finish. It really was. It really was. So, lap 1. Lando Norris starts from pole. Max Verstappen starts last after a power unit change. Lights go out. Carlos Sainz wins the drag race to turn 1, leading Lando Norris. Fernando Alonso, and this was sneaky, on the formation lap, deliberately drove off to go through the bollards at the end of turn 1, or turn 2, to figure out how quick it was. So when the lights went out, he deliberately cut the track at turn 2 to go through the bollards. It actually got him up to 6th. Pretty sure he was like 12th or something off the start line after he tested the line on the warm-up lap. So there's some veteran instinct right there. Lap 6, Max Verstappen from the back of the grid gets past Valtteri Bottas with 13th after just 6 laps. So he's gone up 7 spots and past his main rival for the race, which was Valtteri Bottas. Lap 13, Lando Norris took the lead from Carlos Sainz down the back straight with help of DRS. Lap 14, George Russell pits and Lance Stroll undercut him. Lance Stroll was probably one of the first people to pit, I think. I think he was the first to pit. George Russell got undercut by him, but by the end of the race was back past him. Lap 15, Carlos Sainz pits to try and cover off Lance Stroll, and it worked, which ultimately helped him to the podium. Daniel Ricciardo pits on lap 23, but had a horror stop, which in the end probably cost him 3rd place on the podium. I think it was like an 11-second stop. Lap 27, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen pitted. Hamilton was able to get out ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, crucially, after Ricciardo's poor stop. Lap 28, Lando Norris pitted, and there was a train of cars he had to get ahead of, and he managed to do it. That was Gasly, Sainz, Stroll, and Hamilton, stuck in a DRS train. So McLaren were able to feed him back out in that gap. Lap 30, Lewis Hamilton got past Sainz and Gasly and sets the fastest lap of the race and was free to chase Lando Norris from there. Lap 34, Mick Schumacher retired the Haas with some sort of problem. I think it was hydraulic or something.
It wasn't a Mazepin problem?
No, it was just he's driving a Haas. There's your problem.
Yeah.
Lap 45, Sergio Perez gets past Daniel Ricciardo, but would ultimately fall back behind him. Lap 46 is where it all began to kick off. Rain starts to fall at turn 5. Lap 47, Lando Norris runs wide at turn 6 but holds off Lewis as both cars are still currently on slick tyres and it's starting to rain. Lap 48, Sergio Perez gets past Carlos Sainz and onto the podium at that point. While behind them, Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll touch. Both cars lucky to get out of that, actually, looking at the replay. Lap 49, Lewis Hamilton pits for intermediate tyres, but Lando Norris does not. He decides to drive on. Lap 51, Lando Norris's gamble fails. He slides off the track and Lewis Hamilton assumes the lead of the race. Charles Leclerc slides off the track too, which is probably why he finished so far down. Lap 52, Lando Norris pits, falls to 7th. There was a possibility of him getting a penalty after missing the pit entry almost, but ultimately I think he got away with it. And lap 53, Lewis Hamilton wins the Russian Grand Prix for his 100th victory from Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. So after all this, after Max Verstappen starting last and Lewis Hamilton starting 4th and being buried in traffic for 3/4 of the race, the championship protagonists finished 1 and 2. Like, what the hell? And obviously the result sees Lewis Hamilton retake the championship lead of the drivers.
By, I think it's 2 points.
Yeah, it's not much, but
Yeah.
it's a lead to lead.
Well, Let's talk about Norris. He had the drive of the day. It was him and Sainz had the drive of the day.
It started on Saturday when he put it on pole.
Yeah.
He put the soft tyres on just as the rain started clearing. And, his gamble on Saturday worked perfectly to put it on pole, and his gamble on Sunday failed miserably and cost him his first race win.
Well, another driver who actually took the same gamble as Norris was Charles Leclerc. When he slid off, he was on the slicks.
Yeah. From my understanding, Lando Norris was told that it was going to be light drizzle in turn 5 on lap 47.
Yeah.
And it was, because there it was probably from turn 5 to like turn 7 or something was wet. The rest of the track was dry. So he was fine. He was doing what he had to do, and he was still holding off Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis Hamilton post-race actually said, when Mercedes told him that, there's probably more rain coming, he actually ignored them too. He's like, I actually ignored the first call as well. It's something Mercedes figured out. And I don't know how McLaren didn't see it. They've got the same weather bureau thing, radar. Like, the TV camera was focused on it the whole race. It's like, look, there's going to be an initial burst of rain, and then there's going to be a heavy burst of rain. Mercedes figured that out and told Lewis. They're like, look, we know you don't trust us right now, but come in and put the inters on, because there's a second lot of rain behind this, and you're going to need it. And for whatever reason, McLaren just... And it sounded like they were asking Lando rather than telling him. And I think that was the mistake.
Yeah, because they asked Lando if he wanted the inters. He was very adamant. No,
he did not want the inters because he was told it was going to be a drizzle. He didn't know about the second band of rain coming that Lewis found out about. Mercedes told Lewis to pit, and Lewis trusted them.
Yeah.
McLaren asked Lando to pit, and Lando didn't want to.
Yeah.
And it was very reminiscent of a MotoGP race from Austria like a month or two ago, where Darren Binder won at the Red Bull ring on slicks in the pouring rain, and I thought we were going to see it again. But on lap 51, when it was torrential and it was too late to save it, Lando slid off the track, and for 99% of the weekend, he was the best driver out there.
For me, it reminded me of Germany in 2000, when like half the track was wet, half the track was dry.
Yeah.
And the McLarens both boxed and got wet tyres on. And Rubens Barrichello stayed out on the slicks. So the speedy forest section was dry. The stadium section was wet. So he had to tiptoe around in the stadium section.
Yeah.
And this is old Hockenheim. So once he got into the straight, just blasted that Ferrari. And he ended up getting his first win. So that's what the race reminded me of, because half the track was drenched and then half of it was dry.
Yeah, initially.
Yeah.
But by the time the race ended, the whole track was saturated.
Yeah, it was Swan Lake.
Yeah, because they had it on the TV camera. Like, I think Crofty pointed it out as early as like lap 5 or 6. He's like, there's a lot of rain over that hill over there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's around the circuit, but it's not at the circuit. But then you watch it, and like, it'll cut back, and then suddenly there's rain in front of the mountain, and then suddenly you can't see the mountain at all.
Yeah.
And then you see it going across the sea towards the track, and it's like, it's getting closer and closer and closer. They might get away with it. And then lap 47, all the fans down at turn 5 are pulling out ponchos and umbrellas, and it all kicks off. And Lando Norris went from hero to zero pretty quick, but I think so did the team.
Yeah.
I think I'm interested to hear what the debrief is, because I don't know how they missed it. I understand why Lando didn't pit, because he was convinced it was a light drizzle.
Yeah.
And for 3 or 4 laps it was. But for the last 2 laps it wasn't. It was torrential. And McLaren somehow missed it. No one else seemed to miss it. Like, obviously Leclerc was out there trying to gamble too, but
Yeah.
I'm just miffed at how McLaren missed it. and why they weren't more forceful, you've got to stop asking him. You've got to tell him. Like, if you've got information that he doesn't have, pass it on. It's a team sport. For as much as it's all about the drivers at the end of the day, it's a team sport. And, McLaren's got egg on their face now because that was almost back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
That should have been back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
And, 2 days later, still pretty cut up about it, man. Just, he did everything right, but listened to his team, or his team let him down. But whatever way, as they say, they rise together, they fall together. So
yeah. Well, moving on from Norris, we go to the guy who I thought was the second best driver of the day, which was Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, and
he had a great day at the office as well.
And all this talk about Lando, I think the two most underappreciated drivers on the grid post-race, Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Daniel Ricciardo started P5 and held off Bottas pretty much for the entire race.
Yeah.
And I think he held up Lewis too for ages.
So did Alonso. Alonso held up Lewis again.
Yeah, so Daniel Ricciardo played the team game perfectly to help Lando out. And, it sucks that all the focus is on Lando essentially bottling it.
Yeah.
And isn't on Ricciardo for being the wingman that he... And you know what? And that botched pit stop, he probably would have been on the podium had they got that first pit stop done properly.
I will say this, though. I mean, you look at the results, Norris is 7th and Ricciardo is 4th. You look at their rival in this Constructors, which is Ferrari, where you've got Carlos Sainz in 3rd and Charles Leclerc in 15th.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year, the results would have been the other way around, where it would have been Charles Leclerc 4th and, Carlos Sainz in 7th and Norris in 3rd and Ricciardo in 15th. I'm starting to see a bit of a reverse on what was going on earlier in the year. But
Daniel Ricciardo's figured the McLaren out by the looks of it.
And I mean, that McLaren is a sweet little machine.
That thing is good in a straight line.
Oh yeah, well it's got the Mercedes donkey in the back,
That's it. That thing has looked really good for the last few races.
But I mean, the Ferrari, only Leclerc had the new power unit, so Sainz is still running the old power unit. Sure, it doesn't have the straight line speed of the McLaren, of the Mercedes donkey, but there's something about that Ferrari. There's something in that Ferrari. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like the drivers, I don't want to say they're punching above their weight, but they're getting something out of a car more than anyone anticipated out of that car.
And more importantly, Carlos Sainz is getting something out of that car more than anyone anticipated.
Yeah, well...
There's multiple occasions this year he's outdriven Charles Leclerc.
Well...
Probably almost most of the season, right?
There's been a few times where Leclerc has gotten ahead of Sainz.
Yeah, but he just seems to have... He clicked with that car pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah. And I mean, don't forget, this year's Ferrari is a modified version of last year's Ferrari.
Yeah. Yep.
With a better power unit.
Yeah.
But it still has that aerodynamic deficiency that last year's Ferrari had.
Yeah, but they seem to be covering it up at certain tracks, at certain speed tracks.
It's going to be interesting what Sainz can do with the new power unit. Particularly seeing the next race is Turkey.
Yeah, which is a great track, by the way.
Yeah, well,
I love that track.
It's predominantly a power track, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Very much so. High speed power track.
And the new power unit has 20 extra horsepower.
Yeah, so I think all it's going to do is just reaffirm Sainz's position as an up-there driver, a driver challenging for the podium.
Okay, we'll get to the pit lane questions then.
All right.
Here we go with the pit lane question. Now, just to clarify, Johnny doesn't know what these pit lane questions are.
No,
I write them down and they're in my book, and I put him on the spot. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. He doesn't know what these questions are, so his answers are not predetermined. So for a lot of this season, when we've spoken about Mick Schumacher and Ferrari, we've sat there and said that Carlos Sainz is on borrowed time. He is just keeping that seat warm for Mick Schumacher. Do you think that Ferrari have actually backed the wrong horse with Charles Leclerc? Do you think that maybe Charles Leclerc is the one that needs to go when Schumacher comes in?
I would probably agree with you, but Charles Leclerc's been the golden boy at Ferrari since Vettel was there as well.
Yeah, but I mean, Sebastian Vettel was the golden boy when they brought him in. Fernando Alonso was the golden boy when he came in. Yeah.
Carlos Sainz has done nothing wrong to lose that seat. I think he's integrated with the car better than anyone thought he would. I mean, he's putting that thing on the podium pretty regularly and up there in qualifying pretty regularly.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, Charles Leclerc is a talented driver. But do you think maybe he's too comfortable in the team? If there is such a thing, maybe he's too comfortable in the team and too comfortable thinking that he is the number one driver, despite the fact that if you look at the driver standings, I don't think he's beating Carlos Sainz now. I think Carlos Sainz is beating him.
Yeah, I think he is too. Yeah, possibly. I mean, yeah, he had every intention to feel like he was. Oh, God, spring has sprung, and my sinuses are fucked again. Sorry, everyone out there. Yeah, I think he spent too many seasons just thinking he was just the heir apparent, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he has. Maybe he is a little bit comfortable. I mean, he's been there a lot longer than Carlos Sainz. This is Carlos's first year. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't see Ferrari getting rid of Leclerc. But at the same time, Carlos Sainz has well and truly earned his place in that team as an equal, if not even the lead driver at this stage of the season. So, yeah, I don't know. To answer your question, I really... And, I mean, it's still probably another 2 years before you even think about moving one of them on.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mick Schumacher needs to mature as an F1 driver. I think... Which comes to a news story that broke last week, is that Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin have both re-signed with Haas for next year. Maybe Schumacher needs another year at Haas and then a year at Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he's not ready for the Ferrari seat yet.
No.
He's still 2 or 3 years away from being ready for the Ferrari seat.
2 years at the Haas, 2 years at Alfa Romeo.
Then into the Ferrari.
And then into the Ferrari.
Then you can make your call about who you want to ditch.
Yeah.
Because by then, Ricciardo's contract's up at McLaren. Lewis Hamilton's probably retired.
Yeah.
George Russell's going to be at Mercedes.
Well, then
Sergio Perez might not be at Red Bull by then. You know.
Well,
plenty of time for it to shake out.
But having said all this, having just sat here and crapped all over Charles Leclerc and Sainz seem to be the two drivers that have clicked the most and seem to be the most solid driver pairing on the grid.
Yep. But now under threat from Ricciardo and Norris, I think. They're finally starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Perez has fallen off. From where he was at the start of the year.
Yeah, Perez needs to...
Yeah, Verstappen's definitely taken the ascendancy at that team now.
Yeah, Perez needs to pull his head back in.
Yeah.
Because if he keeps going like this, sure, he's got a contract for next year, but, I mean, it's Red Bull. They got no qualms about kicking a driver out the door mid-season.
That's it. They've done it before. They'll do it again.
I just don't think Gasly is the right guy, and Tsunoda is not the right guy.
No, but both those guys re-signed contracts as well.
With AlphaTauri,
yeah. Yeah, so they're not going to Red Bull anytime soon either.
They can swap them mid-season.
Oh, they can, but... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Sergio is probably... If he's not feeling a little bit of heat, he probably should start feeling a bit of heat, because his last few performances have not been great at all.
No, and it's costing Red Bull the constructors.
Yeah. Oh, it will. So, when we said it, I think Sergio Perez will be the reason Red Bull don't win the constructors, because Valtteri Bottas will be more consistent than him.
Yeah, and
even with Bottas leaving the team.
And Bottas hasn't been consistent lately. I mean, he managed to scrounge up fifth,
Yeah.
but he's driving for himself now. He knows he's going to Alfa Romeo. He does not give a shit about Mercedes politics. The only reason why he's doing what he's doing is because he's a professional.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want to make an ass of himself before he goes to a new team. But, yeah, no. Perez, he needs to start improving. It's good to see Ricciardo getting the grips with that McLaren, so now they can start pushing for outright third in the constructors. Because their results are... I think I said last podcast that the momentum had swung.
Yeah.
And despite what happened to Lando, the momentum has swung. Because if it was a clean pit stop, think about this, it could have been first and third.
Yeah.
Lando could have won that race and Daniel Ricciardo would have been on the podium with Lewis Hamilton wedged between them.
Or it could have been Sainz wedged between them because Ricciardo had held off Hamilton. He could have held him off for a bit longer. Anything could have happened.
Could have been another one too.
Yeah.
It could have been Norris from Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been anything. And, it's funny. I saw someone on Twitter earlier today. It was like, if you told me as a McLaren fan in 2015, 2016, that you'd be gutted that your car's finished 4th and 7th in a race, I would have laughed at you. But that's what it feels like today. Yeah. And once again, it takes away from what Ricciardo did.
Yeah.
Ricciardo had a good day and would have been on the podium but for a pit stop error.
But it also takes away from what Carlos Sainz did in the Ferrari. I mean, he had a solid drive.
Exactly, he definitely did. He definitely showed that the Ferraris still got some semblance of pace.
But, we've got Mercedes leading the constructors and Red Bull's second in the constructors.
Yeah.
It's nice to see McLaren and Ferrari
fighting again.
I mean, I know it's not the top step for the constructors, but it's an entertaining fight for third and fourth. It shows most of the old guard are back in there, back in the fight. And whichever team gets third in the constructors, whether it's McLaren, whether it's Ferrari, they earned it.
Yeah, they're going to earn it.
And whatever team comes fourth cannot hold their head low and say, well, we muffed it, because they did an amazing job as well. So
yeah, it wasn't like last year where Racing Point fell over themselves.
Yeah.
And McLaren just happened to swoop, was it 4th in the constructors? Or 3rd? I think it might have been 4th.
Might have been.
I think Racing Point actually got them at the end. But this year, whoever gets third will earn it.
But at least Ferrari and McLaren can both say, we won it. We came third and fourth or whatever in our own cars. We didn't copy last year's Mercedes.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next sort of item is we've been able to eliminate some people from who's going to get the other seat at Alfa Romeo.
Yes, we have.
So,
surprisingly,
according to the F1 Word, shout out to Sean from the F1 Word. It's a great channel. Make sure you follow it. I've got to check over my notes for this.
That's it. I think you told me yesterday what this was.
So, both the F1 Word and the race did stories about the Alfa Romeo seat and ruled out the following drivers: Callum Ilott, Robert Schwartzman, Nick De Vries. So now it's a three-way fight between Antonio Giovinazzi, Guan Yu Zhou, and the guy who's winning the F2 championship, who everyone was like, he's got no hope in hell of getting a seat in F1, Australian Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, because not forget, Oscar Piastri was Formula 3 world champion last year and is now on the verge of becoming Formula 2 champion in consecutive years. I think that puts him ahead of Guan Yu Zhou.
Yeah.
But behind Antonio Giovinazzi. But Giovinazzi, who finished 16th in this race, really needs to start showing.
I think it's too late for Gio. I think it's too late for him. Even Ferrari has given up on him.
Yeah, well, that's not good.
But the breaking story that happened over the weekend was the announcement which confirmed why Callum Ilott is not in the running for that seat, is that Callum Ilott is driving in IndyCar next year.
Yeah, right. Well, that probably... I assume he's been told ahead of time that Alfa Romeo don't want him. So it's probably why he's taken his option overseas, which is a shame because I wanted to see him in Formula One. I really did. He's such a talented young kid. I thought Guan Yu Zhou was on the outer. He's quick, and I think the only reason they looked at him was because of the Chinese market. But outside of that, I never really rated him. But I'm genuinely surprised that Ilott's off to IndyCar because I thought he had the makings of a Formula One driver. Absolutely.
I think the team he's going to has been given a little bit of cash money from Ferrari though, to take him on board. Like it keeps him racing rather than keeping him in a simulator as a reserve driver.
Yeah, it's true. And at the end of the day, that's probably what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to
keep your skills fresh.
Yeah, you don't want to be sitting in a simulator and then going out and testing a car once every 6 weeks.
And like as horrible as it is to say, I think a simulator type of thing, that's something that would suit someone like Robert Kubica a bit better.
Yeah.
You know, that's horrible to say. You know, I mean, Robert Kubica, he's got his handicap, for lack of a better term.
It is a handicap, though.
Yeah.
I mean, his right hand's, like, fucked. Like, yeah, that rally accident, like, he nearly lost his hand, right?
Nearly lost his arm.
But we know what a driver he was before that. His first run in Formula One.
Oh, look, when he drove for BMW.
Was brilliant. He was one of the best drivers in the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's handicapped now, and there's no way around it.
Yeah.
It sucks because we know what a talent he was. But, it's coming into the end of the season. You know, these decisions need to be made. If Giovinazzi's gone, I'd like it to be Piastri.
Yeah.
Guan Yu Zhou, obviously for the Chinese market, maybe he'll get some financial backing, which will boost his chances. But if it's not going to be Ilott, for the patriotic sake, I hope it's Oscar Piastri as crowned Formula 2 world champion.
I find it rather ironic that the two drivers that are in the running for an Alfa Romeo seat, and Alfa Romeo, yes, it's Sauber. It is Sauber. And they're getting a little bit of backing, a little bit of financial help out from Ferrari. The two drivers in contention are Renault Academy drivers, Alpine Academy drivers.
Yeah, they are. It's weird, eh?
That's strange. That's.
I guess. I mean, there's only so many seats in Formula One, isn't there? Or
Yeah,
even
that's right.
as in reserve drivers and test drivers. Like, if you've got 4 guys as your reserve driver, you only really need 2. You know, you can just pick and choose who you want as your uppers.
Yeah.
And I guess you can leave them. Because they're contracted, but they're technically not contracted, are they? Like, you're a reserve driver, but only on the days they need you, really.
Yeah.
If you're down that low, if you haven't officially signed a contract as a test driver or a reserve driver like Kubica has, and you're like the 3rd or 4th guy in line, you know, you're under their umbrella, but you're not contracted. You can go wherever you want.
I think putting a Alpine Academy driver in the Alfa Romeo is just getting them F1 experience for when Alonso retires.
It's keeping them fresh because, you might as well keep circulating them because there's a lot of guys on this grid in the next 2, 3, 4 years that aren't going to be here anymore. Raikkonen's already going. Alonso will go soon enough. Vettel might even go soon enough.
Hamilton
is going to go. And then, the drivers that'll lose their seats, like maybe Perez, probably Latifi, maybe maybe Gasly. No, Gasly's fine. But, maybe Tsunoda. I don't know. If Tsunoda doesn't improve, he won't be around long.
And I mean, you've also got the prospect of possibly
New teams.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Particularly for 2026.
Yeah, exactly. So, you might as well keep your skills fresh while you can.
Yeah.
And because there's going to be opportunities popping up sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Especially probably in the next, 2 to 3 years, definitely.
Speaking of opportunities popping up, now I know this is a different genre of motorsport, but the guy who's in this story, he's an F1 driver. He's one of our own, But Romain Grosjean has signed with Andretti Motorsport for next year in IndyCar.
He's stepping up to the big boys.
And he's doing oval tracks. He's doing a full championship.
That's good. I'm glad to see he landed on his feet. And also, while we're on the IndyCar subject, Scott McLaughlin was voted Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So that guy's going places as well. Good to see Romain Grosjean going balls to the wall with it now. Like, he's committed. You might as well just stay committed.
He seems happy again.
Yeah, he does.
He seems like the driver that drove for Lotus.
Exactly. Yeah, the 2013 Romain Grosjean that was like on podiums and competing.
Yeah, not smashing Gunther Steiner's fuck door.
Exactly. He's out of that pressure cooker that was Haas, and he's a little bit more free. And you can tell that, he's a lot more happy, and it's affecting his driving in a positive way.
Yeah, it's a new lease on life for him.
Yeah, exactly. He's out of the pressure cooker of Formula One. He's out of the pressure cooker of Haas needing to perform because Gunther Steiner needs to keep his job, and Gene Haas needs a reason to keep pumping money into it, which is now Nikita Mazepin's problem.
Well, speaking of that, Haas confirmed that Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin are driving for Haas in 2022. Schumacher only signed a 1-year contract.
Yeah, well, Schumacher
wants to get the fuck out of that team.
Yeah, I know, but where's he going to go?
Oh, look, I think he'd go to Alfa Romeo.
But you'll get Bottas there next year, and then you'll get Oscar Piastri there, and then you got 2 new drivers that have just been on 1 year of their contract, and then you'll want Schumacher to try and squeeze in there. He won't. That's the problem. Like, if Schumacher's going to stay there, everyone's going to get new contracts next year. Like, Bottas is confirmed, and either Piastri or Guan Yu Zhou, or by some miracle, Giovinazzi keeps his seat. But by the time Schumacher's contract then expires at the end of next year, you've got 2 Alfa Romeo drivers that are only 1 year into their deals. Like, they're not going to want to go anywhere unless Bottas wants to get the fuck out of the sport. Or you'd have to try and convince Valtteri Bottas to retire.
Or if Alonso retires, and then one of the Alpine Academy drivers takes his seat at Alpine, frees up that seat.
What at Alpine? He's not going to jump from Ferrari Academy to Alpine Academy. Because then how does he get back to Ferrari?
No, I mean, Alonso retires. Say Alonso retires at the end of 2022.
Yeah.
Right? And say Alfa Romeo signs Guan Yu Zhou. Guan Yu Zhou's Alpine Academy.
Yeah, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, I'm following you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Oscar Piastri, who is Alpine Academy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, so Alonso retires and then Piastri gets in there with the Alpine Academy, and then suddenly that seat's free again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That could happen too.
And it's Schumacher building his way up the grid.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not jumping straight into a Ferrari and expected to perform, which is sort of what happened to Charles Leclerc.
Which I don't think that did Charles Leclerc any favours.
It really didn't. Like, he had so much form when he first got there, and now it's sort of fallen off a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, the shine has come off the diamond.
Setting the world on fire like he was in 2019. Not by a long shot. So, there's pros and cons to everything in this sport, isn't there?
Yeah, well, these things happen, but...
That's it.
Alright, so, we're going to move right along to the driver's standings. So, in first place of the Drivers' Championship is Lewis Hamilton, 246.5 points. Max Verstappen in second in 244.5. Valtteri Bottas is in third with 151. Lando Norris is in fourth on 139. Sergio Perez is in fifth on 120. Carlos Sainz is in sixth with 112.5. Charles Leclerc is in seventh with 104. Daniel Ricciardo is in eighth with 95. Pierre Gasly is in ninth with 66. And Fernando Alonso is in 10th with 58. And the constructors, Mercedes has opened up a little bit of a lead here with 397.5 points. Red Bull in second with 364.5. McLaren in third with 234, having opened up again a little bit of a lead over Ferrari, who are in fourth with 216.5. Then you have a vast yawning chasm.
It's quite a drop.
Quite a drop. That's what my mum said about the rosé that she sculled. It's quite the drop.
It's quite the drop.
Alpine in fifth on 103 points. AlphaTauri in sixth with 84 points. Aston Martin, again, there's a bit of a drop between AlphaTauri and Aston Martin now. Aston Martin is sort of dropping off the tail there.
Yeah, there is.
Aston Martin in seventh with 59 points. Williams in eighth with 23 points. Alfa Romeo in ninth with 7 points. And Haas in the rock bottom with Zoot. They've got about as many points as William Story has pounds in his bank account.
That's it. Although I'm sure William Story is quietly building his bank account back up for another farcical run.
Yeah, for another fraud. I mean, another run in F1.
Another fraudulent run in F1.
He'd be better off if he put money into IndyCar. At least he could fool Americans then.
Yeah, he probably could. Actually, I wonder why he hasn't thought of that.
Or V8 supercars.
They're not that gullible.
I don't know. It's not even Australian supercars anymore because we're running Mustangs and Camaros next year.
Not till next year. Next year it's just American supercars.
Yeah.
Might as well just call them American supercars next year, honestly.
Might as well start taking the cars over there and running in the ovals.
Yeah, just start building oval tracks here.
Yeah.
We'll just call it Ozcar. Or NASCAR. Actually, I think there's already an Ozcar Corporations. It was like Speedway or something.
Yeah, I think so. But, so the next race is Turkey.
Yeah, when's that? 2 weeks?
I don't know.
Let's check.
Yes.
Because we're professionals.
We are professional podcasters here.
We came prepared for this. Such a result hurts, says Leclerc, after slick gamble doesn't pay off. Yeah, seems like a year.
No shit, Sherlock.
Join the club. October 8 to 10 is Turkey. I believe that's 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
Yes. After grand final weekend this weekend. Woo.
Yes, where the other reason why Johnny is enjoying a Great Northern because his team in the NRL got eliminated too.
It was the same feeling, man. Like watching on Sunday night and then 2 laps from the end, Lando goes off. And yesterday I was walking around work just dejected as all crap. And I'm like, this is how I felt watching Penrith pip us with their bullshit tactics. Won't get into it. It's why I'm cheering the Rabbitohs in the grand final. But it was the same feeling. I was so gutted because Lando did everything right. And then we were crawled at the end by some bullshit. Except it was weather.
And it looks like the NRL grand final might be getting moved.
To Townsville, yeah. Because Brisbane can't keep COVID out of their city.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you let New South Wales truck drivers in.
That's it.
Fucking
Look at us. Everything from Formula 1 to politics.
Yeah, we're great.
We're everywhere.
We're almost as political as Friendly Geordies.
Not quite. We're not getting
No, we don't have John Barilaro sending the obsessed persons unit.
Yeah, Braz sending his fucking secret agents to arrest you at your house.
Yeah. God, could you imagine them knocking my mum over? Jesus.
She'd get up and knock them over, though.
Kiki would tear him apart.
Yeah, I bet she would.
Kiki's my dog, by the way. She's a lovely staffy.
She's a beautiful dog.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is our review, our waffle on about Sochi. It's actually a shorter episode this week because, like...
It's odd, though, because the race was so exciting. and exhilarating, and we can't really put it into words, which is odd.
Well, we went over what happened in the race.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've tried to explain the gutting, heartbreaking feeling of watching Lando fucking bottle it, but besides from that, like, it was a good race. Like, go back and watch it.
To his credit, like, he did perform an amazing bottle job, but he didn't hit the wall. He didn't hit our friend Barry R.
Yeah, he kept it out of the wall, which was...
He kept it out of the shadow realm.
Which was something that a few other drivers didn't manage to do. I think Lance Stroll, before he punted Pierre Gasly, wound up in the wall. At that corner, I think.
Yeah, but he also clipped his teammate too.
He almost took out Sebastian Vettel. Yeah, that would have been a good debrief. Are you surprised that Aston Martin's as low as they are?
No, I'm not.
Yeah?
And my reasoning is because of Lance Stroll. I just don't see him. He's not a world champion.
No, he'll never be world champion. Let's be real.
Yeah.
There's 15 drivers on this grid that will never be world champion.
Like Carlos Sainz, I don't see him as world champion.
No.
You know, he'll be a number 2.
I don't think Daniel Ricciardo will ever be world champion. There's a bunch. Ocon won't be a champion. Gasly won't ever be a champion. There's a bunch of drivers on the grid that won't ever be champion. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Perez, when he first started, I picked him to possibly be world champion, but
No.
not anymore. Lando Norris, he'll be champion one day. I think Lando's got it in him to be champion one day.
George Russell,
yeah, definitely in a Mercedes. He's definitely got a shot now.
Yeah, I do think Mick Schumacher and I do think Charles Leclerc do have something that'll give them a world title.
Yeah, but they'll be in the same team by that stage.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Anywho, thank you for tuning in this week.
Yeah, we've pretty much run out of shit to talk about, which is odd.
It's been a very light news week as well. So
yeah, we don't really have a whole lot to bring to you. But anyone with a KO subscription or a Foxtel, go back and watch the race.
Yeah,
you won't be disappointed. Like, it's one of the craziest. They're already talking about it being the best race of the year.
Look, I would go as far as saying, other than Spa, because you can skip Spa.
Yeah, Spa didn't happen.
Go back and watch pretty much the entire season. It's been a thrilling season.
We told you last episode, if you're on the fringes about watching Formula One and want to get into it, start watching.
Yeah.
And Sunday night was a perfect example of why you should start watching.
And it's only going to get better from here because you've got Turkey, you've got Saudi Arabia.
You've got Jeddah. You've got... What else we got?
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. We've got Mexico. Are they going to Mexico? And Austin? So. I think they cancelled Austin.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go for a run through of the remaining tracks and we'll rate them.
We're trying to finish the episode. We're just starting off other crap. This is great.
Look, we're just padding it because we don't want a 40-minute episode.
Well, I mean, we did a nearly 2-hour wrestling podcast last night.
Yeah, it was 11 o'clock and my eyes were hanging out. I was still trying to explain why Roman Reigns is the greatest wrestler of all time. No, they are. So they're going to Turkey, and then they're going to Texas, and they're going to Mexico, and then they're going to Brazil. Although I thought they cancelled Brazil. Apparently not. They're going to Sao Paulo.
And they're going to TBC.
They're going to be confirmed, which... What did they say that was going to be? Didn't they say that was going to... What did they say that was going to be? Oh, it might be the Qatar Moto Grand Prix track, which is very similar to Bahrain.
Okay.
It's a good track.
All right.
Then Saudi Arabia, then Abu Dhabi, yeah. So...
They should go to Brands Hatch so that Lewis Hamilton can make another fucking spectacle of himself.
Yeah, well, the Sakir track last year was like 50-second lap.
Yeah.
Brands Hatch should be probably less than that.
Yeah, I know.
Even like the long layout, you could probably get around there in about 50 seconds.
They need to do
Bathurst.
Le Mans.
Although I watched the video on why they can't do Bathurst, the dip is too steep, and the sand trap at the chase is unacceptable, apparently, according to the FIA.
No such thing as unacceptable.
Because in V8 Supercars 3, where you hit that fucking grass thing, and you can like T-bone the guy on the other side of the chase.
Yeah.
Apparently that's a legitimate thing. Apparently Formula 1 cars at like 340 kilometers an hour can do that. And because Conrod Trent would be a DRS zone, and there's no way to turn the DRS off.
I want to see a Formula One car go down Conrod Straight with DRS on it now.
Yeah, that would be pretty fucking sick.
I can see even the drivers shitting themselves.
Yeah, but there's no way to turn the DRS off coming into the chase. So you'd have to...
I thought they could just push the button.
Apparently you're going to tap the brakes.
Oh, okay.
Which is why the back straight to the Parabolica at Monza isn't a DRS zone. Because apparently they don't use the brakes going into that corner, which I find real puzzling.
True.
I wonder if there's like a percentage of brake you have to use before the DRS closes. Because they reckon when they get to the Parabolica, the DRS system doesn't register that it needs to shut off and the DRS will still be open and they all spin and die.
And on that bombshell, it's time to end.
Back to the studio.
Meanwhile, in the Wraith...
Good reference. Good reference. That's an inside joke. Anyway,
Yes.
no one on the internet's going to know what the we're on about.
Unless they've come to a Halo night, then they know.
All right, let's wrap this donkey up.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. We will see you in 2 weeks for our review of the Turkish F1. But on behalf of myself and my broadcast colleague, JB, thank you for tuning in. We will see you then. Until then, goodbye.